Awesome. So I appreciate everybody being on. Today's topic, I have to admit, isn't the most sexiest. Life insurance. Look, I love life insurance, man. I remember coming into this business and it wasn't something that caught my attention, to be honest. I love the potential of making money, residually, passively, running my own business one day. Life insurance was far from my mind. I was like, I just got to take the test and pass it. But I literally said, I'm never going to sell life insurance. That's just not what I came here for. I loved investments. I loved at that time we were doing mortgages. So I did want to learn about that. As a matter of fact, how we met Samir, I don't know if you guys know this, was through my best friend, Andre. And his mother worked at the bank that Samir's mother worked on. And we were buying properties. We started a company in flipping properties. And we needed to learn, try and get mortgages. And that's how the conversation between the moms happened. And he introduced us to Samir. And then I went to go see Samir. Him, Andre, and I went to go see Samir at the new building that they had at the time. And that's how we met. That's how he recruited me. So it's funny. I would never forget. Samir was maybe 23. The Samir you know today was not that Samir back then. He was a kid. And he was, I think, pissing on his pants because he saw two. I was 30. My man was 30 years old, and we both making almost 100 grand a year. And Samir was new. He was like 9 months in the business, maybe a year, I think it was. So he knew nothing of nothing. And I would never forget. It was like maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night, and he called Shaq. Yo, you got to come out here, man. You got to go meet with these guys. And Shaq came, and that's how that's how everything started. But Samir was literally a kid. I mean, he was, Samir today is completely different in his ability to communicate what we do. But I remember listening to Shaq and him when he covered everything that we did. I bypassed life insurance. And I was like, all right, cool, you guys do that. Who cares? Yo, listen, teach me about this mortgage thing. Teach me about this investment thing. And that's what I was excited about. But as I matured, as I, started having kids, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, I realized that of the importance of life insurance. And while it's still not a sexy product to discuss, it is a necessary evil. Make no mistake about it. And I think, the pandemic really has put that at the forefront for most people today. And it's something we're going to be talking about today. And it's really terrible terms specifically. I'm not going to cover, comparisons with cash value or universal life for today. And sometimes we forget, I think, that, because we're so focused on replacing cash value, we're so focused on replacing universal life and flexible premium adjustable life and all the horrible things that are out there, that we forget there's a lot of terrible term out there in the market. And you have to understand how to go through that, how to, compare what value you bring as a company, when you sit down with families, and then how to overcome that. And that's what we're going to be focused on today. So with no further ado, let me bring up this, and then we can get going on that. And I want it to be a little bit more interactive today, guys, if you guys don't mind. I don't mind you jumping in. If you have a question, I believe you guys can unmute yourselves, jump in, or even text it. You can text it to the chat. If anything, I rather have you guys just jump in, because texting to the chat, I have to, stop it, I have to go to it and read it and all that stuff. So I don't mind if you have a question, just jump in and ask. I want it to be more interactive today. This is going to be a classroom setting, if you will. All right. So replacing a terrible term, and I'm going to be going over a few case studies today. So let's start off with just some fundamentals of term insurance, which I'm sure most of you know, right? Number one is pure protection. There is no gimmicks to it. There's no craziness about it. It's like any other type of insurance. Shaq always says, he taught us life insurance is really not how it should be called, right? It's not like car insurance replaces your car if you get into an accident. Home insurance replaces your home if it burns down. But life insurance doesn't replace your life, nor does it protect you from dying. It simply replaces the money you brought home. So we call it income protection. And that's all it is. It's pure protection. The premium you pay is based on the cost of insurance you have, right? So there is no cash value attached to it. You're going to always get clients, thinking that there is. When you are sitting down with families, by the way, never really believe a client as to what they think they have. And it's not that they're lying to you, they just really don't know. So don't take it for face value. Oh, I have a term, and just say, oh yeah, they have a term, he's good. That's not true. Dive more into it, ask a little bit more questions, and obviously get them to give you the policy so you can confirm. Term insurance is the cheapest way to buy life insurance, period. Every other type of product is always more expensive. And obviously, the shorter the level term is, the cheaper the policy is as well. In the industry, you can convert only to cash value. As a matter of fact, in all the textbooks, in taking the exam, sometimes that's a question you're going to receive. What can you convert this term into? It's always a cash value policy. In most cases, it's whole life. I don't think I've ever seen it being converted to a universal or flexible premium policy. It's usually whole life, including from work, right? If you have GTL, group term life, and let's say you're leaving your job and you want to convert it, it always converts to a whole life. It does not convert to another term. Primerica is the only company that I know of that allows you to convert from term to term. Okay, we're going to come back to that later. And then at the end of the term, in most companies, you have to requalify. You have to prove your insurability again. And the cost of insurance naturally goes up because you're older. But the end of terms also, and I didn't put that on here, I apologize, but the end of terms costs of insurance are ridiculously high. And again, we're going to cover as to why that is as we continue. So these are some general fundamental facts of term insurance. Okay, guys? Now, I want to cover a few myths within the industry and what the competition, quote unquote, because I don't see them as competition, what they try to sell you on. Okay. By the way, and I want to kind of take a quick step, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning. My philosophy is simple when it comes to people having life insurance. If you don't have life insurance with me, you do not have the right kind. That's my philosophy. I don't care who gave it to you, who didn't give it to you, even within life, within the industry, within Primerica itself. Now, I would not replace a term insurance, or I wouldn't replace a policy. You really can't anyway, if they have it already with National Benefit Life, especially if they've had it for some time, because obviously they'll be older. I did sit down with a client a year and a half ago who ran his own business. He got a policy like maybe. I think if I remember correctly, my wife will remember, maybe
Right, exactly.
12, 13 years ago. And it was with Primerica, and their policy was going to be up soon, and their lifestyle changed completely. At that time, they did not have the increase in benefit riders and other tools that we have today. So I was able to change agent and as well as give them another longer term up to this point. So, but again, in general, the general consensus, Jamily, if they don't have life insurance with you, they don't have life insurance, period. Okay, so coming back to this here, industry myths. A lot of times you'll get the agents from other companies stating that getting a term policy is like renting a house versus buying a house. Now that sounds slick, right? It's a very, for the average person who doesn't know any better, that sounds very intellectual, and that sounds, yeah, man, I don't want to rent. I'd rather buy.
Is that like under the under the
Perception.
perception that people need to have like whole life? Thank you. Perception.
Yes,
under the perception
that's the premise of it.
People need life insurance for their whole life.
Yeah, that is the premise of it, right? They're trying to sell you why you should have a whole life policy. So they'll tell you when you have a term, it's like renting. I invite everybody, go watch Samir's training that he did over a year ago on our YouTube channel, right? If you're not subscribed to it, subscribe. I mean, guys, there is gold in there, literally gold in there. And Samir did a training on actually, you know what it is the training he has on comparing whole life to term. And he discusses when you compare renting versus buying a house, it's like going to, if you imagine nowadays in almost any city, any a town, if you go to any block and you're looking to rent this house, the rent is, I know in New York up here is probably $2,500 for a typical three bedroom home. Okay. Now, if you were to buy that house, your mortgage will also be about $2,500. So essentially, renting and buying is the same. So yes, I agree with that. If you're going to pay the same amount of money to rent versus buying a house, then it probably makes more sense to buy a house because you can build equity, you can do a lot of things with it in the future. It becomes yours. But when you compare it to life insurance, it isn't the same. And what I mean by that is this. If you're buying a whole life policy, you may be paying $250 a month for your policy. However, if you have the same coverage in term, same person, same time, you might be paying $50 a month for the same thing. So imagine going to a house and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to rent you this house for $500 versus buying it for $2,500. Now we might think to ourselves, you know what, I'd rather just rent for 500 and do what with the rest, the other $2,000.
Okay.
Invest it so our money grows. That is accurate. But the industry will have you think that you can compare renting and buying a house. It isn't the same thing. So that's a myth, and you got to understand that. Secondly, it is used as a loss leader. Does anybody know what that is? A loss leader in the sales world or in product selling. So a loss leader is a pricing strategy used where a product is sold at a price below its market cost. And what it's supposed to do is stimulate other sales with greater profit. For example, has anybody ever been to a store where there is a retail store, even though everything is at Amazon now, but even the supermarket, what you always see at the end caps, right? Or what you always see in the front of the store is what? The sales. Hey, 50% sale today, right? What is it called? BOGO, buy one, get one, right? And when you walk into the store, the sales rack is where typically? In the back. Or you got to find it, or it's just a little small space, right? Because what is it designed to do? To get you to come in and buy something else. Well, like the life insurance industry uses term as a loss leader. They minimize the costs of life insurance when it comes to the equivalent term with other companies, specifically ours, so that they can get someone to buy it and then eventually get them into a whole life policy. That's what they do. They also sell mostly 5 and 10-year level terms. Because again, their cost is low. And they warn the individual, right? Because when they sit down with the family doesn't want to spend a lot of money. As consumers, we want to minimize our costs. And because we don't know any better as a consumer, we want to say, you know, man, I got $500,000 and I'm only paying $20 a month. Well, we know what? Is maybe a year term or 5-year term or a 10-year level term. That's why. When you see all these commercials that they have, right? There's a new one that's all the time now. I forget the name of it, but they're always saying, hey, you can buy a $500 policy, 35-year-old male for $19.99. They put 99 in there. Can you believe it? And what are they selling? They're selling what? The cheapest term and the perfect human, right? Best health possible, right? You know, they're selling basically Donald. Nobody looks like Donald. I'm not saying looks. I don't know if he looks all right, but as far as health and and shape, yeah, he got that, right? They're selling the individuals in the right height, right weight, all that stuff. Perfect health. They trying to get you in to sell you something else. That's the point. Right? Another myth that they talk about is how term insurance policies historically almost never pay out in comparison to cash values. Is that true, guys? Yes, it is, Donald. is absolutely true. That's not a lie. Now, here's the man. I get pimples growing on my back right now, right? Or hair standing, right? And here's why I say that. It's supposed to be. You're not supposed to die in the next 10 years. You're not supposed to die in the next 20 years or the next even 30 in most cases, especially when you're already 30 years old starting the policy. Of course, term doesn't always pay out in most cases. Whole life always pays out if you keep paying it for your whole life. Of course, you're going to die at some point. So the fact that they're selling that, it's just like selling a dividend in life insurance, right? They try to equate a dividend like it is in the investment world. In the investment world, the dividend is what? Sharing of the profits. But in life insurance, it's a deliberate overcharge of premium for the potential return of it. That isn't the same thing. So just like in term insurance, it doesn't pay out as much as whole life. Good. That means you didn't die in the next 5 years. Think about that. Now, don't get caught up with the fact that everything they say is a lie. No. It's your job as a professional to explain why. Give the whole truth, not half of it. All right? So don't get intimidated when another agent, and some of you will come across agent confrontations. That's one thing they're going to say. Well, terms never pay out, Mr. and Mrs. Client. Why would you want a term? Really? They never pay out? Yeah, that means, I was about to say a bad word. Yeah, man, that means, dummy, that you didn't die. You wanted to pay out, right? So that's something to understand. And the last thing, not all life insurance, all life insurance is a form of term. Did you guys know that? Mm-hmm. All of it is a form of term insurance. I don't care if it's whole life. I don't care if it's universal life. I don't care if it's flexible premium adjustable life. Every single life insurance policy involves only 2 types of terms, which we're going to cover in a minute. Right? So let's get right to it. And hopefully my pen works. For some reason, it wasn't working for a second ago. Okay, so why do I say that? When you think about, and those of you who are licensed, which I believe everybody on here is, but if you're not, you're studying this right now, right? There's 4 different types of terms, really 3 different types of terms that you have to know, right? And then there's 4 types of whole life or permanent policies, and then you have your flexible and adjustable policies. So if we focus on the different term policies, here's what you have. Is best described as LID, level term, increasing term, and decreasing term. Oops. Those are the 3 different types of term policies. Now you're going to hear ART. What's ART? Annual renewable term. That's just a form of level term. It's just annually. It isn't a type of term. It's simply a form of level term. Because level term can be a year. It can be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and of course we have 35. Okay? Now, every single life insurance policy, Joey, that you will ever come across is either a type of level or decreasing term. And I'm going to show you that right now. Now, I want you to think about this logically. And this is not something necessary that you have to cover with clients. It might go over their heads. It might confuse them. It might, you might open up, if you don't do it properly, you're going to open up a can of worms. So you got to be careful if you are going to use this with a client. But I will share it with you guys because you need to know this, okay? So when you think about logic says what? Mortality means what? The older you get, what happens to the cost of insurance? It goes up. It has to. That's a fact. That is logical. No one can dispute that, right? So what they do is they take, at the age of 25, for every 1,000 25-year-olds, X are going to die, right? The older, the higher that number is, or that age is, the higher the X is, and therefore the higher in premium. The fact, no one can dispute that, right? When you also take a look at when you have more coverage, obviously that also goes up. So we're going to keep it the same at 100 grand. Now, if you take a look at this here, when you compare coverage, let's say $100,000, and age, let's say from the age of 30 to the age of 60. If you have a policy where the coverage reduces from 100 grand down to zero by the age of 60, what do you think happens with the premium? Does it go up? Does it go down? Or does it stay the same?
Stay the same.
It stay. Who said that?
Maryland.
Marilyn, excellent. It stays the same. It doesn't go up or down. Now, how can you say that? You're getting older from the age of 30 to the age of 60. Why is my life insurance cost staying the same?
Because you're that's the term of your policy and you don't have to prove insurability.
Nope. Nice try, but no.
Less coverage.
Who said that?
Maryland again.
Marilyn, that's my girl. Let's go, Marilyn. Right? Less coverage. See, what's happening here is you're getting less and less coverage every year, so they're not on the hook to cover more. That's why they can charge you the same price. Right? Now, let's just say that you tell the agent, no. From the age of 30 to the age of 60, I need to have 100 grand in coverage. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I continue, this is known as a decreasing term policy. This kind of policy is also compared to or bought for what purpose? Let's see if anybody can catch that bonus question. When you have mortgage. What? There you go, Jamalee. It's a mortgage policy also. Why? Because it's considered when you buy a mortgage, over 30 years fixed rate mortgage, you're going to pay less and less later on. So people buy a policy for that mortgage to cover it, and a decrease in term is ideal for that. Okay.